The morning shift at the Galactic Council's Xenobiology Department started like any other. Deep space scout vessels sent their reports through the quantum communication network, and junior researchers sorted through them with practiced efficiency. Most reports contained nothing interesting. Dead worlds, gas giants, or planets with only basic microbes. Zethkari, a tall, blue-skinned Altarian with 4 arms, sat at his workstation reviewing the overnight transmissions. His secondary arms moved across holographic displays while his primary hands sipped warm nectar from a crystalline cup. As the department's senior archivist, he had reviewed thousands of these reports over his 60-year career. The work had become routine, almost boring. The first 17 reports that morning followed the usual pattern. Dead systems, lifeless rocks, a few planets with simple plant life that might evolve intelligence in a million years or so. Zethkari processed each one quickly, assigning catalog numbers and filing them in the appropriate databases. Then he opened report number 18, Scout Vessel. Wandering Star had discovered a small solar system in what humans would call the Orion arm of their galaxy. The third planet from its yellow star caught the Scout's attention immediately. It glowed blue and green, wrapped in white clouds with clear signs of abundant life. Interesting, Zethkari muttered, leaning forward. His species had evolved from desert dwellers, so water worlds always fascinated him. The report detailed atmospheric readings that made Zethkari's eyes widen. 21% oxygen, perfect pressure, liquid water covering most of the surface. The planet teemed with millions of different life forms, from tiny organisms to massive creatures swimming in the oceans. But the real surprise came in the next section of the report. Intelligent life. Zethkari set down his nectar cup and read more carefully. The beings called themselves humans and their planet Earth. They had built cities, developed technology, and even begun exploring space. Their advancement level registered as Class 4 on the Council's scale. Primitive by galactic standards, but definitely intelligent. The Scout had observed them for several days without making contact, following standard protocols. The humans used radio waves to communicate across their planet. They had split their world into different nations that sometimes fought with each other. But they also showed signs of cooperation and cultural exchange. What struck Zethkari most was how young they were as a species. According to the genetic analysis, humans had only developed true intelligence within the last 100,000 years. Most species took millions of years to reach even basic spaceflight. These humans had done it remarkably quickly. The physical description made Zethkari chuckle. Humans stood on 2 legs, had 2 arms, and possessed only 1 head with 2 eyes. Such a simple body design seemed almost primitive compared to his own species' 4 arms or the Methaxians' 6 legs. Yet somehow these simple creatures had built a technological civilization. The Scout's behavioral observations painted an interesting picture. Humans seemed driven by curiosity and ambition. They explored dangerous places on their own planet, deep oceans, frozen poles, and high mountains. They built machines to help them survive in hostile environments. Most remarkably, they had already sent crewed vehicles to nearby planets and were actively searching for life among the stars. Eager little things, Zethkari said to himself, making notes in the file. The report recommended standard first contact protocols, but not for several centuries. Humans needed time to develop faster than light travel and mature as a species. Premature contact often proved disastrous for primitive civilizations. Better to wait until they were ready. Zethkari agreed with the assessment. He had seen what happened when the Council contacted species too early. Some civilizations collapsed from the shock. Others became completely dependent on galactic technology and never developed their own capabilities. A few became hostile and had to be contained or relocated. No, these humans deserved time to grow on their own. He assigned Earth the catalog number ZX7749 and began the process of entering it into the Council's vast database. The classification would be Level 7. Intelligent life discovered, monitoring recommended, contact delayed pending further development. As part of standard procedure, Zethkari needed to cross-reference Earth's stellar coordinates with existing records. The Council had been exploring space for over 1 million years, and sometimes they rediscovered worlds that had been catalogued long ago. Occasionally, ancient civilizations had left markers or warnings about certain systems. He inputted Earth's coordinates into the historical database and initiated the search. While the quantum computers worked, Zethkari moved on to the next report. A gas giant with interesting atmospheric chemistry in the Vega sector required his attention. 3 hours later, a soft chime indicated the cross-reference search had completed. Zethkari expected the usual result: no matches found. Most newly discovered worlds had never been visited before. Instead, the display showed 7 matches found. Accessing historical archives, Zethkari frowned. 7 previous references to Earth's solar system seemed unlikely. The coordinates were very precise, so errors were nearly impossible. Perhaps ancient species had passed through the system during migrations. He opened the first match, dated approximately 12,000 years ago. A hegemony exploration vessel had detected radio signals from the third planet, but had not investigated further. Their records noted primitive electromagnetic communications, but nothing more. The second match, from 18,000 years ago, mentioned the system as a navigation waypoint during the Zephyrian expansion period. No details about the planets themselves. The third match made Zethkari pause. 31,000 years ago, a Kalari mining survey had detected unusual seismic activity on the third planet, but had found no valuable minerals worth extracting. Each match pushed further back in time. 42,000 years, 48,000 years, 50,000 years. The seventh and oldest match was different from the others. The file header bore the seal of the Vorth Empire, a civilization that had vanished from the galaxy over 50,000 years ago. The Vorth had been one of the greatest spacefaring races in Galactic history before their mysterious disappearance, but this file was encrypted. Zethkari stared at the security. Warnings surrounding the document. Access required level 9 clearance, higher than his own authorization. The file was marked with symbols he recognized as Vorth warning signs, though he could not read their ancient language. Why would the Vorth Empire have classified information about a primitive system like Earth's? He tried to access the file anyway, hoping his archivist privileges might grant him entry. The system immediately denied his request and logged the attempt. Within minutes, a message appeared on his screen. Archivist Zethkari, report to High Counselor Malethvar's office immediately. Bring file ZX7749. Zethkari felt his foreheart skip a beat. The High Counselor never summoned junior archivists directly. Something about Earth had triggered high-level security protocols. He gathered the Earth files and made his way through the Council's massive headquarters. The building stretched for kilometers in every direction, housing representatives from thousands of species. As he walked, Zethkari wondered what secrets a primitive human world could possibly hold. The High Counselor's office occupied an entire floor near the building's apex. Malethvar, an ancient being whose species had evolved from crystalline formations, received Zethkari in a chamber filled with floating data displays. "You discovered something interesting today," Malethvar said, without preamble. His voice resonated like crystal chimes. "Tell me about this world called Earth." Zethkari presented his findings, describing the humans and their developing civilization. Malethvar listened without interruption, occasionally manipulating holographic displays to review the scout reports. "And the historical cross-reference?" Malethvar asked. 7 matches dating back 50,000 years. The oldest is a Vorth Empire file that requires level 9 clearance. Malethvar's crystalline form pulsed with dim light, a sign of deep concern in his species. "Return to your duties, archivist. Speak of this discovery to no one. I will handle the Earth file personally." As Zethkari left the office, he couldn't shake the feeling that his routine discovery had been anything but routine. Something about Earth terrified the High Counselor. But what could possibly be frightening about such a young, primitive species? High Counselor Malethvar stood alone in his private chamber, staring at the encrypted Vorth file that had remained sealed for 50 millennia. His crystalline body dimmed with worry as he entered his highest security codes into the system. The file opened with a warning written in ancient Vorth script. Malethvar had learned their language during his early years as a scholar, back when he still believed the Vorth had simply evolved beyond physical existence. Now, like most council members, he suspected something far worse had happened to them. The translation appeared on his display. "Warning to all who follow the star paths. The third world of the yellow star contains the Kethmaran. Let none wake them. Let none approach. The children of Kethmaran must sleep until the galaxy is ready for their return. High Sage Vorthathak, final entry. Malathavar's form flickered with shock. Kethmaran was not just any ancient term. In the old tongue, it meant the proving ground or world of the tested ones. But the phrase carried deeper meaning. It referred to a place where the most dangerous beings in the galaxy had either evolved naturally or been deliberately placed. He accessed the Council's most restricted historical databases, files that only the High Counselor could open. As he searched for references to Kethmaran, fragments of ancient records appeared on his displays. A partial Altarian chronicle mentioned the sleepers of Kethmaran, who dream of conquest among the stars. A broken hegemony text spoke of those who survived the great testing, dwelling on the world of trials. A Zephyrian religious manuscript warned that when the children of Kethmaran wake, even the stars will tremble before their hunger for the infinite. Each reference painted the same picture. Kethmaran was a legendary world where the most adaptable, most dangerous species in galactic history had originated. The ancient civilizations had spoken of its inhabitants with mixture of awe and terror. But these were just legends, weren't they? Malathavar pulled up the scout reports from Earth again, studying them with new eyes. The humans had survived an ice age that should have killed them. They had endured asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, and countless other disasters that had wiped out most species on most worlds. More disturbing was their behavior. The scouts had observed humans climbing mountains that could kill them, exploring ocean depths that crushed most vessels, and venturing into frozen wastelands that offered nothing but death. They did these things not for survival, but for curiosity. The humans fought wars with themselves, but their warfare showed frightening creativity. They had weaponized everything from chemicals to atomic energy. They built machines of war that could destroy entire cities, then turned around and used the same technology to explore space. What kind of species developed nuclear weapons before achieving spaceflight? The kind that had evolved on Kethmaran. Malathavar dove deeper into the ancient records, searching for any mention of what had happened to the inhabitants of the legendary world. Most texts suggested they had either destroyed themselves or left the galaxy entirely. A few spoke of them sleeping until some future time, but the humans were very much awake. He found a Vorth astronomical chart that matched Earth's coordinates exactly. The planet was marked with symbols that meant sealed and forbidden. Notes in the margin suggested the Vorth had maintained some kind of monitoring system around the world for thousands of years. Then Malathavar discovered something that made his crystalline form pulse with alarm. Vorth Fleet Deployment Record, dated exactly 50,000 years ago, listed massive ships stationed around Kethmaran. The mission designation was Final Watch Protocol. The last entry in the log read, "The children stir in their sleep. We cannot contain them much longer. All fleets withdraw. Let the galaxy prepare." Shortly after that entry, the Vorth Empire had vanished from history. Malathavar's hands shook as he accessed more files. He found evidence that several ancient civilizations had known about Kethmaran. Some had tried to study its inhabitants. Others had attempted to contact them. A few had even tried to conquer the world. None of those civilizations existed anymore. The pattern was always the same. First contact with Kethmaran, followed by rapid technological advancement in the contacting species, followed by their complete disappearance from galactic records. Had the inhabitants of Kethmaran destroyed them, or had contact with such a dangerous species caused them to evolve beyond recognition? Malathavar reviewed the human behavior reports again. The scouts described humans as remarkably adaptable. They lived in every environment on their planet, from frozen poles to burning deserts. They changed their surroundings to suit their needs rather than adapting to existing conditions. Most species found a suitable environment and stayed there. Humans took unsuitable environments and made them livable. The sports and entertainment humans enjoyed revealed their true nature. They competed in activities that would be considered torture by most galactic standards, running until their bodies nearly failed, fighting each other for pleasure, jumping from great heights with only fabric wings to slow their fall. They sought out danger for fun. The scout reports also noted human art and literature. Much of it focused on conflict, survival, and overcoming impossible odds. Their heroes were beings who faced certain death and refused to surrender. Their stories celebrated individuals who sacrificed themselves for others or who fought against overwhelming enemies. Even their myths and religions spoke of struggle, testing, and emerging stronger through adversity. These were definitely the children of Kethmaran. Malethvar called up a star chart showing Earth's position relative to other inhabited worlds. The humans were already sending out radio signals. Their space programs were advancing rapidly. According to the scouts' projections, they would achieve faster-than-light travel within a few centuries. When that happened, they would begin expanding into the galaxy. The children of Kethmaran would be awake and moving among the stars. Malethvar accessed the Council's emergency protocols. As High Counselor, he could declare a Code Omega situation, a threat to galactic civilization itself. Such a declaration would mobilize every member species and prepare them for potential extinction-level events. But what could they possibly do against a species that had evolved on the legendary Proving Ground? The ancient records suggested that direct confrontation with Kethmaran's inhabitants was futile. They adapted too quickly, learned too fast, and refused to accept defeat. Every attempt to contain or control them had failed, yet they had slept for 50,000 years. Something had kept them quiet during that time. Perhaps their own development? Maybe they had needed time to recover from some great catastrophe? Malethvar found references to a massive extinction event on Kethmaran approximately 65 million years ago. Something had struck the planet and killed most of its larger life forms. The survivors had been forced to start over, evolving new forms and capabilities. The humans were the result of that evolutionary pressure. They were what emerged when Kethmaran's inhabitants were tested by near extinction and forced to adapt or die. They had chosen to adapt. Now they were dreaming of the stars, building rockets, and sending out messages of greeting to any aliens who might be listening. Malethvar realized that the galaxy's peaceful age was about to end. The children of Kethmaran were waking up, and they wanted to meet their neighbors. He began composing an emergency message to the Council's inner circle. Only the senior representatives of the founding species could decide how to handle this situation. But deep in his crystalline heart, Malethvar suspected that the decision had already been made 50,000 years ago. The galaxy would change whether they were ready or not. The sleepers of Kethmaran were stirring, and soon they would be fully awake. The emergency session of the Galactic Council's inner circle convened in the most secure chamber of their headquarters. Representatives from the 7 founding species gathered around a circular table that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations over the past million years. High Counselor. Malethvar stood at the center, his crystalline form casting rainbow patterns on the chamber walls as he presented his findings. The holographic displays showed Earth floating serenely in space, looking deceptively peaceful. The humans are definitely the children of Kethmaran, Malethvar concluded after sharing the ancient records. The question now is what we do about it. Galactic, the massive representative of the warrior Korthak Empire, slammed one of his 6 fists on the table. His rocky hide scraped against his ceremonial armor as he leaned forward. "We should destroy them now while they are still trapped on their world," he growled. "If the ancient warnings are true, waiting will only make them more dangerous." "And become the next civilization to vanish from history?" asked Serendai, the graceful Eltirian diplomat. Her forearms gestured elegantly as she spoke. "Every species that tried to eliminate Kethmaran's children has disappeared. Perhaps there is wisdom in letting them sleep." "They are not sleeping anymore," Malethvar reminded them. "They have already achieved atomic weapons and space travel. Within a few centuries, they will have faster-than-light capability." Elder Vex Miran of the ancient hegemony tapped his elongated fingers on the table. His species had existed longer than any other in the galaxy, and their memories reached back further than written records. "My people have legends of Kethmaran," he said slowly. "The old stories speak of beings who could not be conquered because they refused to stay conquered. Every defeat made them stronger. Every loss taught them new ways to survive." "Stories and legends," scoffed Galactic. "We have weapons now that the ancients never dreamed of. Surely we can handle one primitive species, can we?" Malethvar activated another display. "I have authorized deep reconnaissance of Earth. Our most advanced stealth probes are already studying human behavior. What they have discovered disturbs me." The first probe recordings showed human cities bustling with activity. Millions of humans moved through complex transportation networks, worked in towering buildings, and lived in harmony despite their incredible diversity. They appear peaceful enough, noted Zilketh, the insectoid representative of the hive clusters. Keep watching, Malethavar said grimly. The next recordings showed human military exercises. Soldiers trained in environments that would kill most galactic species. They practiced warfare in frozen mountains, burning deserts, dense jungles, and underwater. They learned to fight in conditions that no sane species would enter willingly. Look at their equipment. Malethavar pointed to weapons and vehicles displayed by the humans. They have created tools of war that show remarkable innovation. But more importantly, look at how they test them. The probes had recorded humans deliberately placing their weapons in extreme conditions to see if they would fail. They buried explosives in ice, submerged vehicles in corrosive liquids, and exposed equipment to radiation levels that would sterilize most worlds. They do not just build weapons, Malethavar explained. They torture test everything to find its breaking point. Then they build better versions. Serendai's forearms trembled slightly. That is thorough. It gets worse, Malethavar continued. The displays showed human recreational activities. These are their sports and entertainment. The council watched in stunned silence as humans threw themselves off cliffs attached to elastic cords, jumped from aircraft with fabric wings, and dove to crushing depths in the ocean. They raced vehicles at speeds that would be fatal if anything went wrong. They climbed vertical rock faces using only their hands and feet. They seek out mortal danger for pleasure, whispered Elder Vexmiran, just as the legends described. And this, Malethavar said, showing recordings of human disasters. Watch how they respond to catastrophe. The probes had observed humans during earthquakes, floods, fires, and storms. Instead of fleeing to safety, many humans ran toward the danger to help others. They entered burning buildings to rescue strangers. They sailed into violent storms to reach people in distress. They organized massive relief efforts within hours of any disaster. They become more cooperative when threatened, Malethavar noted. Most species become selfish during crises. Humans become selfless. Galactic studied the recordings with growing unease. His species valued strength and courage. But what the humans displayed seemed almost insane. Show them our war. Simulations, he requested. Malethavar activated detailed computer models, showing what would happen if the Korthak Empire attacked Earth. The simulations assumed complete surprise and overwhelming force. The results were not encouraging. The first wave of attacks would succeed, Malethavar explained as the simulation played out. Human military forces would be destroyed. Their cities would burn. Billions would die. The council watched as Earth's surface was devastated by the simulated assault. But then this happens. Malethavar continued. The simulation showed the aftermath. Surviving humans disappeared into forests, mountains, deserts, and urban ruins. They began guerrilla warfare using improvised weapons and tactics. Within months, they were striking back against occupation forces. The computer predicts that within 5 years, human resistance would develop weapons capable of destroying Korthak vessels, Malethavar said. Within 10 years, they would be building their own spaceships from captured technology. Impossible, Galactic protested. They are primitives, are they? Malethavar showed more probe data. In the past century alone, humans have gone from simple mechanical devices to atomic energy, computers, space travel, and genetic engineering. Their rate of technological advancement is unprecedented in galactic history. The simulation continued. After 20 years of occupation, the humans had not only driven off the Korthak forces but had reverse-engineered their technology and begun expanding into space themselves. The simulation ends with humans arriving at the Korthak homeworld, Malethavar said quietly, armed with weapons that combine human innovation with Korthak engineering. The chamber fell silent. Elder Vexmiran spoke first. The legends were true. They cannot be conquered because they learn from conquest. What about containment? Suggested Zilketh. Quarantine their system. Prevent them from achieving faster-than-light travel. Malethavar showed another simulation. We tried that scenario as well. Humans respond to containment by becoming more innovative. They would eventually break free, and when they did, they would be even more dangerous. Then what do you suggest? Serendai asked. The ancient records offer one possibility, Malethavar said reluctantly. Several texts mention that Kethmaran's children might be manageable, if approached correctly. Meaning what? Meaning we might be able to establish peaceful relations with them. The humans seem genuinely interested in meeting other species. Their radio broadcasts include messages of friendship and requests for contact. Galactic laughed harshly. Peaceful relations with the most dangerous species in galactic history? That is your solution? It may be our only option, Malithvar replied. Every other approach leads to our destruction. The council debated long into the night. Some argued for immediate military action. Others suggested hiding from the humans until they destroyed themselves. A few proposed attempting communication. In the end, they reached a compromise that satisfied no one completely. They would continue monitoring Earth while secretly preparing the galaxy for the humans' eventual arrival. Military forces would be positioned far from human space. Trade routes would be adjusted to avoid their expansion paths. And most importantly, they would begin spreading warnings throughout the galaxy about the approaching awakening of Kethmaran's children. As the council dispersed, each representative wondered the same thing. How do you prepare an entire galaxy for the arrival of beings who had terrified their ancestors for 50,000 years? The humans seemed friendly enough, but so had many dangerous predators throughout galactic history, and the children of Kethmaran were the most dangerous predators of all. The news spread through the galaxy like a quantum ripple, traveling along trade routes and communication networks faster than the Council had anticipated. Despite their efforts to keep the discovery classified, word of Earth's true identity as Kethmaran leaked beyond the inner circle within days. It started small. A junior Altarian aide overheard fragments of a conversation between council members. A hegemony translator working on ancient texts noticed increased access to historical archives about the legendary world. A Korthak military analyst saw fleet repositioning orders that made no strategic sense unless something terrible was happening in the outer rim. Within a week, the rumor had reached the galaxy's information brokers. On the trade station orbiting Nexus Prime, Captain Yilmaris of the merchant vessel Silver Wind received an urgent message from his hegemony contact. The text was brief but chilling. Kethmaran has awakened. Adjust routes immediately. Avoid Sector 7749. Yilmaris had grown up listening to his grandmother's stories about the children of Kethmaran. Every spacer knew the old tales, though most considered them myth. According to legend, Kethmaran was a world where the most dangerous beings in the galaxy had evolved. Creatures that grew stronger through adversity and refused to accept defeat. The stories said that when Kethmaran's children finally reached the stars, they would reshape the galaxy in ways no one could predict. Yilmaris immediately filed new navigation plans that would take his ship nowhere near Sector 7749. Better to add 3 weeks to his journey than risk encountering whatever had awakened on the legendary world. Within days, every trade route in the galaxy was being quietly rerouted. On the militaristic world of Korthmal, General Thrakvan received sealed orders from the High Command. The message bore the highest security classifications and required biometric confirmation to open. Effective immediately, the 3rd, 7th, and 11th battle fleets will redeploy to defensive positions in the rimward sectors. The orders read, prepare for extended deployment. Monitor for unusual transmissions from Sector 749. Under no circumstances are any vessels to approach. Coordinates previously designated as Kethmaran. Thrakvan's 6 hands trembled as he read the coordinates. His military academy training had included courses on galactic history, and he knew what Kethmaran represented. His instructors had taught those lessons as theoretical exercises, never imagining they might become relevant. The children of Kethmaran were supposedly the ultimate test of any military force. They adapted to any strategy, learned from every defeat, and turned every weapon used against them into something more dangerous. If they were truly awakening, the galaxy's age of peace was ending. Thrakvan began implementing the orders immediately. 3 entire battle fleets, over 10,000 warships, would be positioned as far from human space as possible, while still maintaining defensive capabilities. The message was clear. The Korthak Empire, feared throughout the galaxy for their military might, was retreating from a species that had not even achieved faster-than-light travel yet. In the crystal spires of New Alteria, the planet's religious leaders convened an emergency gathering. High Priestess Sarenthal had received disturbing reports from believers throughout the galaxy. Ancient prophecies were being discussed in temples that had not spoken of them for millennia. The Starwalkers of Kethmaran, wake from their long dream, she read from a crystalline tablet that had been sealed in the temple's deepest vaults. When they rise, all things shall change. The wise will welcome them as teachers. The proud will learn humility. The weak will find strength, but none shall remain unchanged. The prophecy continued with warnings and promises that made the gathered priests uneasy. According to their ancestors, the children of Kethmaran would bring both destruction and renewal to the galaxy. They would tear down old systems and build something entirely new. Sarenthal ordered the prophecies to be studied and interpreted, but secretly she hoped they would prove to be mere mythology. Unfortunately, the galaxy's foremost experts on ancient civilizations were reaching very different conclusions. Professor Kelmeran of the Hegemony Archaeological Institute had spent 30 years studying the mysterious disappearance of the Vorth Empire. His research into their final records painted a terrifying picture of what had happened 50,000 years ago. The Vorth had been monitoring Kethmaran for thousands of years, maintaining a careful watch over its sleeping inhabitants. Their technology was far superior to anything that existed in the modern galaxy. Yet they had been afraid to wake the world's children. The last Vorth record spoke of stirring in the deep, places and dreams that reached toward the stars. The Empire's greatest minds had concluded that Kethmaran's inhabitants were beginning to awaken naturally, and nothing could stop the process. Rather than face what was coming, the Vorth had simply vanished. They didn't die, Kelmeran explained to his colleagues during an emergency academic conference. They evolved beyond physical existence to escape what they knew was inevitable. The children of Kethmaran were waking up, and the Vorth chose transcendence over extinction. The implications were staggering. If a species powerful enough to transcend physical reality had fled from Kethmaran's children, what hope did the current galactic civilizations have? Meanwhile on Earth, humanity continued its daily existence completely unaware of the cosmic terror their mere presence was causing. Captain Sarah Shen of the International Space Station looked out at the stars during her evening observation period, wondering if any of those distant lights harbored intelligent life. Her mission included listening for radio signals from other civilizations and broadcasting messages of friendship into space. Hello to anyone who might be listening, she spoke into the communication array, as she did every evening. This is Captain Sarah Chen speaking from Earth. We are a young species just beginning to explore space, and we hope to meet you someday. We come in peace and friendship, eager to learn about the universe and share what we know. Her cheerful message traveled out into space at the speed of light, reaching automated monitoring stations positioned throughout the solar system by species too terrified to approach directly. The irony was lost on Sarah, but not on the alien observers who recorded her every word. The most dangerous beings in galactic history were broadcasting invitations to visit, asking for friendship, and promising to share their knowledge. It was exactly what the ancient warnings had predicted. On trading stations and military bases throughout the galaxy, beings who had never seen a human began making preparations for an uncertain future. Some purchased passage to the galactic core, hoping distance would provide safety. Others invested in weapons and defensive systems, though most suspected such preparations would prove useless. A few bought passage toward Earth, driven by curiosity about the legendary species. These were mostly scholars and explorers willing to risk everything for the chance to study Kethmaran's children firsthand. The galaxy's stock markets fluctuated wildly as investors tried to predict what human emergence would mean for galactic civilization. Defensive technologies increased in value. Exploration equipment became worthless as everyone avoided unknown space. Companies that specialized in first contact protocols saw their stock prices soar. Religious orders across the galaxy began preparing for what they believed might be either apocalypse or enlightenment. The children of Kethmaran were described in various mythologies as both destroyers and creators, beings who would end the old galaxy and birth something new. As weeks passed, the initial panic settled into a tense watchfulness. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for signs of human expansion beyond their home system. Deep space monitoring stations reported increased activity around Earth. The humans were launching more satellites, building larger space stations and sending probes to nearby planets. Their technological advancement continued at an accelerating pace. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be developing the theoretical foundations for faster-than-light travel. Human scientists were publishing papers about quantum mechanics and space-time manipulation that showed remarkable insight. The children of Kethmaran were learning to walk among the stars, and throughout the galaxy, ancient species who had thought themselves safe began to wonder what would happen when humanity finally knocked on their doors with those cheerful messages of friendship and cooperation. The age of human expansion was coming, whether the galaxy was ready or not. The collision happened on a Tuesday. Dr. Marcus Webb was monitoring the deep space probe Pioneer 7 from Mission Control in Houston when the impossible occurred. The probe, humanity's farthest-reaching vehicle, had been transmitting routine data about cosmic radiation and stellar mapping when its signal suddenly changed. "Contact," Webb announced to his team. "We have contact with an unknown object." On his screen, the probe's sensors showed a massive structure that had not been there moments before. The object was clearly artificial: smooth metallic surfaces, geometric patterns, and energy readings that suggested advanced technology. "Could be space debris," suggested Dr. Lisa Park, though her voice lacked conviction. The object was too large and too complex to be random junk. "No," Webb said, studying the readings more carefully. "It's powered, and it's moving." 300 light-years away, Commander Velthari of the Hegemony research vessel Seeker of Truth stared at his damage reports in disbelief. His ship had been conducting routine stellar observations when something had struck their port sensor array. "What did we hit?" he asked his navigation officer. "Unknown, sir. The object appears to be some kind of primitive probe. Very basic construction, but it survived the impact remarkably well." Velthari felt his twin hearts sink. They were in Sector 7749, the region that had been declared off-limits due to the awakening of Kethmaran. "If this probe belonged to the humans—" "Sir," his communications officer called out urgently, "the probe is transmitting universal standard frequencies. Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled with static, then cleared to reveal a distinctly alien voice speaking in what the ship's computers identified as the primary human language. "Unknown vessel. This is automated probe Pioneer 7 from Earth. We have detected your ship and registered what appears to be a collision. Are you in need of assistance? Please respond on any frequency. We are eager to establish peaceful contact." Velthari stared at the display in shock. The legendary children of Kethmaran had just asked if his vastly superior vessel needed help. Back on Earth, the excitement at Mission Control was electric. Humanity's first contact with alien intelligence was happening live, transmitted across impossible distances by quantum entanglement communicators that the probe's designers had never imagined would be necessary. "Should we respond?" Dr. Park asked, her hands hovering over the communication controls. "Absolutely," Webb replied. "This is what we've been hoping for since we first looked at the stars." He activated the communication system and spoke carefully into the microphone. "Unknown vessel, this is Dr. Marcus Webb speaking for planet Earth and the human species. We confirm collision with your ship. Are your crew injured? Do you require assistance? We come in peace and friendship." On the Seeker of Truth, Velthari listened to the human's response with growing amazement. The beings his species had feared for 50,000 years were genuinely concerned about his crew's welfare. "Sir," his medical officer reported, "we have 17 injured crew members. Nothing fatal, but the collision damaged our medical bay." Velthari made a decision that would change galactic history. "Open a channel," he ordered. Webb nearly fell out of his chair when his speakers activated with a new voice, clearly alien, speaking accented but understandable English. "Dr. Webb of Earth, this is Commander Velthari of the vessel Seeker of Truth. We have injured crew members and damaged medical systems. If you are sincere in your offer of assistance—" "Of course we are," Webb interrupted, his excitement barely contained. "What do you need?" "We'll help however we can. We require medical supplies and technical assistance. But I must warn you, our species may appear unusual to human eyes." Webb laughed. "Commander, we've been dreaming of meeting aliens our entire lives. You could look like anything and we'd still be thrilled to help." Within hours, the news had spread across Earth. Humanity's first alien contact was not with advanced beings who had come to study primitive humans, but with injured travelers who needed help. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Captain Sarah Chen, now commanding Earth's most advanced spacecraft, the Endeavour, volunteered to lead the rescue mission. Medical teams from every nation offered their services. Engineers worked around the clock to modify human equipment for use in alien technology. This is what humanity does, Chen told her crew as they prepared for launch. Someone needs help, we help them. Doesn't matter if they're from across the street or across the galaxy. The Endeavour reached the collision site in 48 hours, carrying medical supplies, repair equipment, and a crew of doctors, engineers, and diplomats. As they approached the alien vessel, Chen broadcast on all frequencies. Commander Velthari, this is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth Vessel Endeavour. We're here to help. When the two ships docked, Commander Velthari prepared himself to meet the legendary children of Kethmaran face to face. His crew was terrified despite their injuries. Ancient warnings echoed in every mind aboard the Seeker of Truth. The airlock opened and Captain Chen floated through, followed by her team. She was smaller than Velthari had expected. Humans were apparently more compact than most galactic species. But what struck him most was her expression of genuine concern and curiosity. "Commander," she said, extending her hand in what he recognized as a human greeting gesture. "I'm Sarah Chen, how can we help?" Over the next several hours, human medical teams worked alongside alien doctors to treat the injured. Human engineers studied hegemony technology with fascination rather than fear, offering solutions to repair problems with equipment they had never seen before. Most remarkably, the humans seemed completely unimpressed by their own legendary status. "You've never heard of Kethmaran?" Velthari asked Captain Chen during a quiet moment. "Should we have?" Chen replied. "Is that what other species call Earth?" "It means the proving ground," Velthari explained carefully. "According to our oldest records, your world was where the most dangerous beings in galactic history evolved." Chen laughed. "Dangerous? Commander, we brought cookies," she was right. The human medical team had indeed brought homemade cookies to share with the alien crew, along with coffee, tea, and various comfort foods. "Your species has been feared for 50,000 years, Velthari continued. "Still trying to understand. That's awful," Chen said, her expression becoming serious. "Fear is terrible. We don't want anyone to be afraid of us. We just want to learn about the universe and maybe make some friends along the way." As word of the first contact spread through the galaxy, reactions varied wildly. Some species prepared for invasion. Others wondered if the ancient warnings had been wrong all along. Some Korthak Empire's military leaders watched in confusion as their scouts reported that the humans had rescued an alien crew and were currently sharing meals and stories with them. "This does not match any projection," General Thrakvan reported to his superiors. "The children of Kethmaran are friendly." On New Alteria, High Priestess Sarenthul consulted the ancient prophecies again. One passage caught her attention. "They shall bring change through connection, transformation through understanding, and strength through compassion." Perhaps the warnings had not been about conquest after all. Meanwhile, on the Seeker of Truth, Commander Velthari found himself genuinely enjoying human company. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the mission's chief medical officer, had shown him pictures of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, and cities full of diverse human cultures. "Your world is beautiful," he told her. "We'd love to show it to you," she replied. "And we'd love to see your homeworld too." "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Velthari realized she was right. Despite 50,000 years of warnings and fear, first contact with humanity had been pleasant. The children of Kethmaran were dangerous, but not in the way anyone had expected. They were dangerous because they made you want to be better than you were. As the two crews prepared to part ways, with human engineers having successfully repaired the alien vessel, and alien doctors having shared advanced medical techniques with their human counterparts, Velthari faced a difficult decision. His orders were clear. Avoid contact with Kethmaran's children at all costs, but these humans had risked their lives to help strangers, shared their food and knowledge freely, and asked for nothing in return except friendship. "Captain Chen," he said formally, "I hereby extend an official invitation for humanity to join the Galactic Council. It is clear that the ancient warnings were incomplete." Chen smiled brightly. "We accept, Commander. When do we start?" As news of humanity's invitation to join the galactic community spread throughout the known worlds, the age of fear began to end and the age of cooperation began. The children of Kethmaran were indeed dangerous. They were dangerously optimistic, dangerously helpful, and dangerously good at making friends, and the galaxy would never be the same.